There was once a clearing where two trees stood, one a mango tree, the other an apple tree. They were the very best of friends and had stood side by side for many years. All their days were spent chatting and watching the world go by. The villagers that lived nearby equally loved these two trees, who, for as long as they could remember, provided them with shade when it was hot, fruit when it was summer, and sanctuary when they wanted to sit and read in peace. Oh yes, the trees were very much a part of village life. On one particular sunny morning, the bustling noise of the villagers could be heard from the clearing. Mango Tree loved hearing all the sounds of life. Still, most of all, she loved watching the children get excited as her mangoes came into season, running to grab them as she dropped them from her branches. Their eager faces, the joy of tasting their sweetness on their lips. Mango Tree also loved being a part of village life. Unfortunately, the same could not be said for Apple Tree. When it came to the villagers, he was very bad-tempered. He had become annoyed at these noisy humans. If they were not treading on his roots, they were swinging from his branches, climbing his trunk and grabbing the apples. And that's not all. Apple Tree hated the birds. He would swoosh them away whenever they came near. The only thing he liked was to sit and bask in the sunshine and talk to his best friend, Mango Tree. Something he was hoping to do on this hot morning when they heard the buzzing sound in the distance. Faint at first, then louder and louder until there were many buzzes. Apple Tree huffed. "What is that noise?" as he, along with Mango Tree, craned to see where the noise was coming from. And then they saw them, a swarm of bees in the distance, heading towards them. As they grew closer, Mango Tree could see the bees looked tired, but there was something else. They looked frightened. Mango Tree called out, "Queen Bee, here!" and reached out her branches to indicate to the swarm of bees that they could land. "You may take rest here." On hearing this, Queen Bee gave a thankful smile and told her exhausted swarm to head towards the trees. Immediately, as the bees approached, Apple Tree began swaying his branches. "Will you get off me?" "Apple Tree, they need our help," Mango Tree pointed out. "I do not care. You may not take shelter in my branches," he spat. "Please, Queen Bee," said Mango Tree, "you may all come onto my branches. I have room for everyone. And here, I also have some dew on my leaves." And with that, Mango Tree welcomed every last bee, who thankfully drank the droplets of water. "Please, my guests, help yourselves to the mangoes for nourishment," she generously offered. After the bees had taken rest, the Mango Tree asked, "What has happened for you to come here looking so scared?" So the Queen Bee explained. "Our colony lived in a dense forest. It was home to the most beautiful trees that bared the sweetest fruit. All the nectar made wonderful honey. All the villagers surrounding the forest knew of this honey. The local villagers looked after their trees and us honeybees very well. They would often come to ask, "Please, bees, may we have some honey?" We were happy in our habitat. We loved our life, dutifully did our job. Queen Bee painted the most glorious picture of their life, where all the villagers, birds and bees lived harmoniously. But little did the bees know that a greedy shopkeeper from a faraway village had heard of their luxurious honey. "If I can get my hands on that honey, I could sell it to the king for a great price." So with that, he hatched a plan. It was the dead of night when the greedy shopkeeper came for the honey. The bees were sleeping peacefully when suddenly a loud bang ran through their hive. So powerful was the blow that the whole place shook. The walls shook. In fact, the entire forest shook. Queen Bee began ordering the other bees. "Quick, quick, get everyone out. Get the little ones first." But every time they tried, they'd crash back down to the floor, as that shook too. Back on the ground, the greedy shopkeeper became more frustrated. He had brought with him the most powerful slingshot, but no matter how many times he hit it, the hive was too high and attached to the branches far too firmly. The more the greedy shopkeeper tried, the angrier he became. Eventually, he decided the only way to get the honey was to chop the whole tree down. So with the sharpest axe, chop, 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 the greedy shopkeeper struck the tree with all his greedy might. The bees all escaped just in the nick of time and hid in the surrounding trees, helplessly watching as their beloved hive and tree crashed to the ground, where the greedy shopkeeper ripped their colony apart and poured their wonderful honey into huge jars. As the greedy shopkeeper was leaving, they heard him laugh. "When I have sold this, the bees will make another hive. I will be back for more." And he left, wringing his hands with glee. Queen Bee was now troubled. What would she do when the greedy shopkeeper returned? They, their trees, and their fellow residents were no longer safe. She decided, in order to protect her forest family, the bees would have to find a new home, far, far away. And with that, the bees bid farewell to everyone and began their journey to find a new home. After flying for what seemed like ages, we came across this clearing where we found you. Queen Bee finished her story. Mango Tree was brought to tears. "That's awful. Oh, Queen Bee, what a horrible story. What will you do?" To which Queen Bee replied, "Keep flying until we find a suitable home, to build our hive with flowers and fruit all around, so we can make our honey for villagers who can enjoy it." It was then Mango Tree had a thought. "You can make your home with us. I have dew on my leaves for you to drink and shelter under my thick branches. You are welcome to stay as long as you need." "I don't think so," a loud huff interrupted their conversation. Apple Tree had also heard Queen Bee's story, but unlike Mango Tree, he did not care for the bees' plight. "Come on, Apple Tree, my friend. We are also here for a reason, to provide shade and food and a home. But Apple Tree wasn't having any of it. "They will bring me trouble if they stay here." Humans, although they liked honey, were scared of bees. "They will scream and throw stones," said the Apple Tree. "No, no, no. I don't think so. Go away." The Mango Tree spoke. "Well, you can live in my tree then. I have enough mangoes to throw down to the villagers and enough for you to get your nectar." "Oh, thank you, Mango Tree," said Queen Bee. "Bees, we must not trouble Apple Tree." And with that, the bees made a new home with Mango Tree. Seasons passed and a peaceful community developed. Mango Tree flourished. Birds and wildlife also came. The Mango Tree enjoyed her new residence. She became happier and full of life. The Apple Tree grew grumpier, alone with his empty branches, as he shooed away any bees or birds who sought shelter. The villagers came and went, asking permission from the bees to have their honey, which of course the bees granted. And once again, news of this beautiful honey spread far and wide. And once again, a greedy shopkeeper came to learn of this wonderful honey in a faraway village. A huge greedy smile spread across his face. He had sold the honey for a lot of money to the king. If he could get his hands on that honey, he could live well off of the riches the king had to offer. In the dead of night, the greedy shopkeeper began his journey. After walking for 3 whole days, he eventually came upon the clearing where Mango Tree and the Apple Tree stood. Tired from his long journey, he took rest under Apple Tree. When morning came, Apple Tree woke. Who was this silly human asleep on his beloved roots? With one swift move, he shook his branch and threw an apple towards the greedy shopkeeper, hitting him. "Ow!" shouted the greedy shopkeeper as he awoke, rubbing his head. Angered by the Apple Tree, he decided to chop it down. "I will take both the honey and the apples to the king." As the shopkeeper dug his axe into the wood, Apple Tree shrieked, "Ow! Hey! Stop that!" On hearing the screams, Mango Tree awoke and, shocked to see what was happening, called out to Queen Bee, "Please help my friend, he is in trouble." "Of course I will," said Queen Bee. She called out to her fellow bees, who on command began to attack. The shopkeeper dropped his axe and swatted the swarm of bees away. "Get away!" he shouted, running out of the clearing and back towards the village. Eventually, when everything had calmed down, Apple Tree asked, "Why would you help me after what I did?" Queen Bee wisely explained, "Just because somebody does wrong to you does not mean you do wrong back when they are in trouble." "Thank you, bees. I'm sorry for my behaviour when you first came here. You may take shelter amongst my branches," offered Apple Tree. As time went by, Mango Tree and Apple Tree lived in harmony with the bees, both full of life and happiness. Apple Tree had learned his lesson. The end.